welcome to another episode of the Raad Life show. And I'm coming to you from a place that I'm going to hold off for a minute, and I'll tell you in a minute where I am. But let's just say that I have a lot of jet lag, and I've been traveling on everything from a small plane with 6 seaters to a jaunt over to a little airstrip that has animals running by it. And it's been an amazing almost 2 weeks of being in Africa, in Zimbabwe, and also in Botswana. And we're sitting actually atop a tower that's at a hotel. What's the name of the hotel? Shongwe.
Yeah.
There's a couple of properties next to each other, and what you can't see, but maybe we'll turn the camera in a minute and we'll show you during the show, is right off my right-hand side, I can see the mist that's coming off the waterfall of Victoria Falls. Okay, and it's amazing because you can also see the Zambezi River going across as well. And the sun is coming up over, that's actually what's on the other side of the Zambezi?
Zambia.
So the sun is coming up over Zambia, and we're standing at the top of this tower, which is about maybe 3 or 4 stories high. And I have the pleasure today to bring to you my very special guest and my friend, Blessing Munyenyiwa, who is the managing director of the Love for Africa. And he is also involved in a lot of other enterprises, which we'll touch on. He's busier than I am. If you think I'm busy and I don't sleep, this man puts me to shame. But again, welcome to the Raad Life, where we explore the journeys of remarkable people living fully, leading boldly, and making their mark in the world. So we are all the way in Africa, bringing you this. And Blessing's work connects people to the beauty, culture, and opportunities of Africa. And I'm sorry I'm reading, but I want to make sure that I capture everything that I put down for this man. I would not do him justice otherwise. But his journey to get here is just as inspiring as the destinations he champions. So welcome to the show, Blessing.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be on your show.
I am really thrilled to have you on here. We became fast friends very quickly.
Yeah.
And a shout out to Powerhouse Smart and Wendy and Vicky and all that group of people. And those who know me know that I've been involved with that group for a while. And we had a group that basically came out to Africa for safari. And Blessing arranged everything. Yeah. And it was a real blessing, actually. And I mean, when I say everything. And we will have some surprises coming up. If you follow the Raad Life, there'll be surprises coming up for something happening in January. And possibly again in May, at least twice next year. It may be even more. So I'm not going to tell you anything else, but that's the teaser.
Get ready for it.
Amazing coffee, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Is that local coffee?
That's local coffee. Loretta's Coffee.
Loretta's Coffee. Another shout out to Loretta, which is a great little coffee shop out of a little camper.
Yeah, a little camper van.
That she was able to turn into a business. And so it's really, all of these things that we're talking about is very enterprising. There's an enterprising spirit, right? So let's start with you, Blessing. Where did the story begin? Because it seems like you have so many tentacles and so many things. You're involved in so many things. Somebody asked me yesterday, does the man ever sleep? And I said, no, I think he doesn't, but I can understand what drives him, because I mean, that's, I think, why we became friends. I think that I get it. I get what it is that you get out of this. That's not just purely a business.
Absolutely.
Right? So where did the journey start? Where did the story start?
Okay. So, thank you so much. What an honor to be on your show. And, mostly what an honor it is to call you my friend.
Honor is mine, my friend.
The journey began, I left school in 1996, and straight from school I had a bug to want to be a guide, to be out on safari. So I joined an incredible company back then, Wilderness Safaris, all shout out to Keith Vincent, who mentored me, took me straight from school when I was 17 years old, and I came to Vic Falls, did a few things here, learned how to be a guide, and went into the bush. So it was incredible because, being a guide and taking guests on safari was something that gave me such excitement, being out there, seeing the incredible animals. And I guess sometimes people ask me, didn't it ever get boring? And for me, no. Because the excitement, not only when I saw it, but the excitement as well, just like when I saw you surrounded by those elephants and just taking it in, and I could see how emotional you were. That keeps me going, because then I get to see that experience through your eyes. So in 2001, unfortunately, we went through a really tough time here in Zimbabwe, where tourism shut overnight. And I'd been lucky enough to meet a guest that I'd taken on safari that actually worked for Disney. And so in 2001, I reached out to her, and she arranged that I could attend an interview. I went through the interview, and instead of waiting a couple of weeks to...
You flew to South Africa?
I flew to South Africa.
Yeah, like literally to another country?
Literally to another country, yes, because they weren't coming to Zimbabwe to do the interview.
Yeah.
So I literally flew to South Africa, did the interview, thought I'd wait a couple of weeks, but I was blessed and asked right then, when was I able to start? So I packed my bags in February of 2001, and that's where my journey really started in the tourism industry. I went and worked for Disney, a year in Animal Kingdom.
In Orlando?
Yeah, in Orlando, Florida, Kissimmee, Florida, where, all of that happened. And I remember, going through the Kilimanjaro safari attraction, and having a great friend of mine who was sort of training me on, okay, this is an elephant and that's a giraffe. And it was quite funny. And I got to a point where, my mom always told me that it's rude to say, I know, right? So, I sat there, and after 2 days of extremely boring training, I asked him...
Of him telling you what you already know.
Exactly. And of the 7 days that I was going to go through this to earn my ears, I thought the nice way to say I know would be, could I give it a try? And for him,
Let me show you what you've taught me.
Let me show you what you've taught me. So I jumped into the vehicle, went around, told him everything that he had taught me, plus extra. So when we got round to the end, he says to me, my goodness, Blessing, that was incredible. And he called his supervisor, said, you got to come on this truck with this guy. Went around for a second time, and they were blown away. And he looked at me, he's like, when did you learn all this? And I just said, well, you're a great teacher. So to save the embarrassment, a couple of months later, when we became really good friends, I told him exactly that was the most boring training I'd ever had. And because I knew a lot of the things that he was sharing with me, but that was really just the start. And I guess that year, Raad, is, me and you have talked often, that was the year that changed my life forever. And I remember, working my way to the top while working at Disney. You obviously could only work 30 hours a week. And as you became more senior, you're allowed to work overtime and more hours. So I had an itch to travel. So every month I would go to a different state, visit guests that I'd taken on safari. So what that meant is that with the money that I had, I couldn't really do a lot. So I lived on a cup of noodles, and I absolutely hate them now. I
heard you tell that story the other day.
Absolutely hate them, but my kids love them. And so a friend of mine introduced me to an incredible place called Give Kids the World in Kissimmee, Florida. Where my life changed. And I remember going there. My friend had told me that, hey, listen, we can go on a Monday night and a Monday night for a pool party, Wednesday and Sunday night for a parents' night out. So we would go there, spend time with these kids, volunteer our time there. These kids were from Make-A-Wish Foundation. Give Kids the World at 96 villas, where these kids had made a wish to see Mickey or Donald or any of the Disney or Universal
for kids that are terminally ill,
literally on their last time,
and this is their wish.
And I did that solely for the food. I'm the first to tell you that. But my life changed because I connected with one child that had only a week to live. And I guess the one good mistake I made was I connected and reached out to the family.
You were not supposed to do that.
I was not supposed to do that. Part of the volunteering. They try and protect you, and they know how
to keep that personal
distance.
Space,
But there's something about this child that broke the rules, as you say. Sometimes you. And I connected, and that child lived for another 6 weeks. No one could explain why. But I guess, when the parents say to me, he looked forward to that call once a week, even though he couldn't really speak back to me. And so that broke me. And it made me realize that,
I would say it broke you open.
It broke me open. I love that, right? It broke me
you open,
And I think from that day, my life changed. And, as you walk into something I'll never forget, as you walk into Give Kids the World, on the ground is written something that Winston Churchill once said, that, we all make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. So,
so true.
So to summarize everything, that gave me an interest to want to work hard. And also it made me miss home. and made me realize that, if I could make a difference in a foreign country,
in a fabricated environment.
Correct. Why couldn't I make a difference in my own country? And so, that's been my life since then. I worked for a further 3 years for Disney, working with the Disney Cruise Lines, learned so much in hospitality, probably the best training I ever got, and came back home to bring that back, not only into the company that I worked for. I returned to Wilderness Safaris, became managing director for Zimbabwe and Zambia. And in 2012, left to join another incredible company called Mikkels Holdings under a friend of mine called Carl Snatter, where I took a year to do a group sales and marketing director role for Cape Grace in Cape Town, Mikkels Hotel in Harare, and Victoria Falls Hotel here. But, wearing the suit and ties went me right, so I missed the safari wear. And in 2013, that's when Love for Africa was born.
Well, and I think you probably had, like a lot of us, you can do that for a while. And if you're lucky enough to do it at a high level, like I did that at a high level for design, at some point, the bug of basically doing your own thing is still there. So at the very least, you have to go and exercise that bug or exercise it like an exorcist, like to get it out of your system, or you have to actually follow that path and see where it leads. And I want to get to that entrepreneurial spirit and where maybe that started. But before that, when I heard you tell that story the other day, and you mentioned the thing about the Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? I knew that I was going to interview you, and I wanted to surprise you by something. So do you know that on this show a few years ago, by happenstance in interaction and connecting with a guy at a custom tailor shop that I was involved with, that I was an ambassador for, I met Frank Shankwitz.
Wow.
Frank Shankwitz, who is the founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, who used to be a motorcycle cop in Arizona. And basically, he had a situation where a child, there was no Make-A-Wish. It was a child, and he'd injured himself being on a motorcycle accident as a motorcycle cop, and he was sort of off duty. And so there was this child that wanted to be like a cop. He wanted to be a motorcycle cop. It was a time of Chips and Punch and John, right? And so he wanted to be a motorcycle cop. So Frank got assigned to basically, since he was off duty, to kind of watch this thing, with this kid. And they made him an honorary badge and all this stuff. And I actually ended up interviewing Frank on the show a few years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And Frank has since passed. But they actually even made a movie about Frank called Wishman.
Wow.
And they had a book that was out, and I interviewed him before that. He was a very gracious gentleman, a total cowboy with the hat and the blazer, lived in, I want to say Flagstaff, maybe Arizona. He had like a spread, and he would snow, very, very gentle giant. And very nice man. And when you were telling that story, all I could think of is how small is the world that I basically, I'm going to interview you here, and maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I actually interviewed the guy who founded the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible! Wow. Wow, and I'm being interviewed by the same person that that's special.
But I think it's really fascinating. Like it resonated with him what he was doing for this child. And it ended up when the kid died, they actually had a motorcycle procession from cops.
That's incredible.
Right? They made him a uniform. They made him an honorary badge. They actually, they actually went all the way out. And out of that engagement, out of that heart being broken open on his kitchen table, he started the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
That is incredible. And for me, incredible to actually learn about that history and all of that. So thank you for sharing that. What a surprise.
So look at the ripple effect of something that affected him like that, where he basically engaged with a level of reward into his life that wasn't your basic monetary only, that there was a part of the soul that was being rewarded more than any check would ever reward you. Right?
Absolutely.
And out of that, he basically started something that then dominoed and rippled effects to where down the road, not even in Arizona, not even California, but in Florida, you coming from Zimbabwe basically got engaged with that same spirit, and then that basically activated in you the need to come and do it here.
To come and do it back home. That's incredible.
Okay, so let me ask you, so what was, like, was there a defining childhood moment? Did you have mentors or examples around you that maybe, because a lot of people sometimes don't understand that there is a very active spirit of entrepreneurship and self-reliance, especially in third world countries. And I think that sometimes gets missed. Sometimes it gets seen as being an odd one thing situation. I think there's an undercurrent of self-reliance and not necessarily only survival, but thriving that maybe is as core and basic as being in nature and seeing how the basics of life is. Right. One day you're a prancing impala. The next day you're basically food on a cheetah's truck. Right. So was there anything in your childhood that basically you can go back to and say, okay, there was this thing that maybe engaged me and planted the seed of this entrepreneurial spirit and the desire to basically excel, and then you kind of married that with not just professionally, but also with like doing good and leaving people better than you find them?
Absolutely. And, interestingly, you asked that question, but when I went to school, I went to a boarding school when I was 6.5 years old, almost 7 years old. And
where was the boarding school?
In Bulawayo.
Okay.
And it was kind of hard because it was Milton Junior. I went to boarding school, I was young. And I think what was hardest about it was that home was only a 15-minute drive away.
But you were in boarding school.
But I was in boarding school, and my mom and dad had put me in boarding school, and so. And
for people that don't understand that, because again, it's a weird kind of concept, right? It's not unusual. Actually, you do that sometimes because you want to ensure that the child has a good education and an environment, right?
Yeah, and I think it's in our tradition, it's very hard for the firstborn child because the firstborn child is always the one that is expected to lead by example.
Are you firstborn?
I'm firstborn.
So I'm firstborn too.
Yeah, there you go. So you understand.
So they have no clue what they're doing. There's no owner's manual.
There's no owner's manual. They're just going to try and roughen us. And so that's what happened to me. And ended up in boarding school. I'm oldest of 5 children, now oldest of 4 from my parents. And what happened then is that I grew up despising and almost hate is too much of a strong word. I loved my parents, but I felt I was the only one sent to boarding school, and all my siblings.
Why were you singled out?
I was singled out.
Is that how you felt?
That's how I felt. But later on, as I got older, I realized what my parents were doing. My dad used to work 3 jobs, and you will know from growing up. My dad was that role model that ticked, and what I didn't know that I've got to find out later was he had to work those 3 jobs to be able to pay for me. So of all the 5 children, they invested more in me so that they could have the firstborn be the example for the siblings.
Isn't that how funny? We don't realize that at the time, and we're basically we're basically being singled out.
Yes.
But in fact, and your parents are not telling you, look, you need to basically appreciate what I'm doing. That's not part of the growing up, right? They're just doing it from a place of love and quietly and all this stuff. But we don't see that. We see the fact that we're basically being kept away.
Yes. We see exactly that we're being kept away, and I guess to a point where my dad used to wake up early in the morning because his bigger brother worked for a newspaper company called the Herald.
Yeah.
So my dad would get all these papers at about 4 in the morning, from 4 to 6, be able to sell them on the side of the road. And then from 7 a.m., he would become a bus conductor for a public transport company here in Zimbabwe called Zupco.
Okay.
And then when he finished work at 4, him and his friend had a fruit cart.
So that's the entrepreneurial.
So I saw this, and I remember growing up and saying that he inspired me, but I always wanted to be better than him. I don't know if that makes sense. I always wanted to be better than him. So when I left school,
explain that a little bit.
I think
what was the drive behind that?
And the drive behind that was that it's in me today. It's interesting. It's in me today because when I do an interview or about to give someone a job, I want them to be able, when I ask them, to say, well, I want your job, because then I know. A friend of mine once told me that for you to grow in a company, you have to hire people that are better than you, because then if you don't,
it forces you to stay.
It forces you to stay there, because the company is never going to move you because they feel they've left a gap. Yeah. So if you can, and so I guess that drive started at an early age. I wanted to do better because I was like, I'd see the hard work that my dad would do for such little profit. And I always told myself that, I'm going to work hard to be better than him and to hopefully look after them and my siblings. And I guess that was instilled in me from a very young age.
Yeah.
So when I left school, my dad wanted me to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And because, being a teacher, a police officer, a nurse or a doctor.
Those are sort of the paths that supposedly are secure, right?
Secure and well respected within the family.
Yeah.
But here was this radical son that decided, after being signed into the teacher's college, I jumped on a train to come up to Vic Falls because I wanted to chase animals in the bush. My dad could not understand it. He actually didn't talk to me for about 6 months, right? And today we sort of laugh about it because I look after my parents. I love it, and have been able to luckily grow successful businesses. But I often share that story with him that if I'd followed his path, he'll still be looking after me today.
Well, it's funny how some of the parallels, like you use the words, there was no prep in this. Yeah. You use the words radical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when I did a workshop in Santa Fe in May.
Yes.
And I've shared the story before, but I'll share it here because it has a connection. I basically was 1 out of 20 people.
Yes.
And we were all in sort of this transition workshop, like what now, right? And it wasn't age specific, although the idea was that it's sort of like a midlife transition, right? But midlife is kind of funny. It's like people say, well, did you have a midlife crisis? I said, no, I had my midlife crisis not at 50, I had it at 20. That's when I got the little sports car, So I missed it at 50, but then it hit me again on 60. Yeah. But so we had people in their 30s, we had people in their 70s in this 20 group, right? Yeah. So at one point, in order for them to basically, after we were done, to be able to identify us as a group and to market to us or to send us emails or whatever, we had to pick a cohort name.
Yes.
Right? So one day, just like with your situation going and being in an environment like, the uncertainty, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to go to Kissimmee Farley.
Exactly.
Right? I basically was the last one walking back into a session.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody was already there.
Yes.
And it was in a circle.
Yeah.
So I walk in and everybody starts clapping. Right? And I go, oh, yeah, So at that moment, I guess I became a mascot to the group.
Yes.
But at the same time, they had put pieces of sticky paper on the wall to where what is the name of the cohort?
Yeah.
And early in the morning, when I came in, somebody had written on top of the piece of paper, where is Raad?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just where is Raad?
Yes.
Question mark. And then everybody clapped. And then we basically were sitting there. And then people were encouraged to go up and write names. Right? Mm-hmm. So somebody put on, the first thing they put in free radicals, and they spelled it with 2 A's.
Oh my goodness.
Free radicals,
yes.
right? And so for the rest of 2 days, it became almost a tongue-in-cheek play on my name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to the point where they said, okay, guys, we need a bit more variety before we vote. Yes. So they added another third piece of paper, right? And when we voted, it ended up that the group became known as the Free Radicals, spelled R-A-A-D.
How about that?
Right. Yeah. Okay. And so it became a funny thing where I'm almost like, and I'm gonna tease about this too. Keep an eye on the fact that the Raad Life isn't going to be just a podcast. We are actually launching a magazine here soon and a media website. Mm-hmm. So I actually reached out to some of these free radicals to write about their experience of what they got, what happened at the age of 50 or what they got out of this workshop, right? So within this Raad Life now, there's a community that's labeled the Free Radicals.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
And when I interviewed Jerry Colonna, who is a venture capitalist, used to be a venture capitalist, he's known as the CEO Whisperer. He's a coach, right? I think I gave you the Stephen Covey book, but
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Jerry wrote a book called Reboot and one called Reunion. Jerry has become a friend. Jerry, I interviewed him.
Yes.
And when I was on the show, he basically said that, in reflection of what I'm doing, all this stuff, he goes, this radical rebellion is probably, there's something about this radical rebellion that you need to lean into.
Yes.
So now we have radical spelled with 2 A's, rebellion. And he said that, and the book I was working on is supposed to be called The Raad Life Lessons from the Road.
Yes.
He said, I think your book needs to be called Radical Rebellion.
I agree.
Right? So you are talking about radical radical thing, not really, in the path, the normal pathway. Yeah. You're activated by different things. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is that you may have not done it consciously at the beginning.
Yes.
But that need for you to basically find your own path, to march to your own drummer, is something that you pursued.
Yes.
A lot of us, including I'll out myself, even though we may be connected to that unconsciously. at some point in life, we may get derailed.
Yes.
And forget that is our true north, that is our real core being.
Yeah.
And so if we're lucky and we slow down enough and stop and think and listen and do that radical self-inventory, then we may be able to reconnect with that.
Yes.
Because otherwise we are out of alignment.
No, absolutely.
So I look at you and I'm inspired because you are following your own alignment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you came back, to bring this back about, I mean, this is all radical.
Yes.
But when you came back, when did you come back to Zimbabwe?
I came back home after working 4 incredible years for Disney. I came back home in February of 2005.
And then when, after you came back, did you venture out on your own?
I ventured out on my own after I came back in 2012.
Okay, so you spent quite a few years here again, establishing and reconnecting and so forth. Okay, so what activated you? Because it wasn't something necessarily you were involved in before you left. You got this impulse, your heart broken open, and you basically connected with the need to be social consciousness, probably, right?
Correct.
And then you came here.
Yes.
Was there anything that happened in that duration of time after you came back before you went out on your own?
Yes, I a lot actually, Raad, because when I came back and rejoined incredible organization called Wilderness Safaris, I just felt a calling that at some point I needed to make my own decisions. I needed to guide my own path, but something that kept burning in me was that of being able to make a difference. And I remember telling myself that, if I could start my own businesses and grow this, I could do a lot more for the people. And so that, that drove me, and that fired, I thought when I came back after a couple of months, it would turn off and I'd continue being just working for someone, being a successful businessman. But that candle did not blow out of wanting to make a difference. And, it still burnt within me that I could make a difference in a foreign country, and why couldn't I make one in my own? And I guess that was the start of me branching out, being that radical guy once again, to take a big risk, leave an incredible job. I had an incredible job, and everything that
was there a catalyst? Did something happen to cause you to push you into making that change? Like in my case, when I lost my job with one of the largest firms in the world for architecture, for no real reason, that was the catalyst for me to say, I'm just going to go venture on my own. Was there something that happened?
Yes, I had a very close friend whose dad passed away. Okay. And passed away with something that was so simple to fix that could have given his dad probably another 20 years.
Okay, it's interesting.
And so I felt that, that was also the time I felt that, if I had left or if I'd started working, maybe I could have fundraised for buying a dialysis machine, or maybe I could have helped in a certain way. So that was a reminder that I had to follow the path that I wanted to do, where I could give more. A friend of mine often says, her name is Terry Williams. I've become good friends with her, and she often says that we must give more than we take. And I felt that if I could earn more, raise more, I could make an impact and a big difference in a country that I love and call my own.
So what was the first thing that you ventured into?
Well, it's interesting because when I turned 30, which was, basically 16 years ago, as I was transitioning to work on my own, I had long hair, as you can see today. I had long hair that literally got to my back, and for my 30th birthday, I decided, because a lot of people had seen me with long hair for a very long time. And I decided when I turned 30 that if I could raise 60,000 to be able to re-equip a hospital here in Vic Falls with a few extra machines and a few things that they needed, I would on that night shave my hair bald. And so, that night I was excited that at least I'd raised 53,000. and I could still keep my hair and still make a difference. But no. The friends that came to the party that night,
they wanted
to shave my head bald. So that night I raised that 60,000 and woke up feeling very empty because I had no hair, I had a bald head. And so that was the start of it. And
so there's a reason why you and I became very fast friends. When my sister got diagnosed with breast cancer the first time, I basically donated my hair. I grew my hair. It was down to here.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it wasn't long enough, but there was this thing called locks of love.
Yes.
Locks of love. And so in order to donate the hair, it has to be a certain length.
Yes.
So when I went to get it cut so that I could basically do it, even though I'm carrying it over here, I'm saying I got all the hair in the world, right? I looked like Coolio, okay, with little palms in my hair, right, for them to cut it. So I did that. And then after that, there was the Susan Komen breast cancer walk. So my sister wanted to do that. So we fundraised as a team for that. And after the first one, I bought a pink tutu.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Okay. And I would wear this pink tutu. Yeah. And so after the first time, every year we would basically fundraise. It became where, I've been on the internet. I mean, I'm off social media now because it's like overwhelmingly, like I don't want to deal with it. But I've been online since '94.
Yes.
Right. So I had a lot of followings. And then growing up in different places of the world, you connect. That's how you stay in contact with whatever technology allows you to do. Yeah. The calling cards, for those who remember phone cards, right?
Yeah.
All on, so forth and so on. So it became where I would use the pink tutu to fundraise.
Oh, wow.
And every year you have to kind of change the direction. So at one point I actually said that if we fundraise the amount that I am requiring, I will shave my legs.
Oh, wow.
And I would wear the pink tutu for the walk.
Yes.
Right? And it was funny because people fundraised and gave me money because they wanted me to shave my legs.
Exactly.
It wasn't
and see that pink tutu.
Right.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Like friends were like, no. You're going to cut your hair. You're going to shave your head.
We're going to get it all off tonight.
So did you shave your head?
I shaved my head bald. And I followed that through, and then that was the start of many. And I mean, I could tell you the difference and the impact that we've made. Over the last 10 years. I guess if you have to ask me what am I most proud about, I'm most proud about being part of making a difference here in Zimbabwe. I mean, the hospitals that I've been part of in building, the kids that are now employed by American companies working from home, not being able to cause any brain drain. I mean, like I could continue for the whole day, in sharing the different stories that and the impacts that we've done over the last couple of years. But it has not been me on my own. It has been amazing organizations such as Meta, such as Powerhouse that we've spoken to, incredible people, the Ginny Benz Bachners, the Dean Hagers, the Terry Williams, the Sandy Youngs. I could continue, to share how these individuals, by just coming to Zimbabwe, not only have made an impact in this country, but have been impacted too, and have continued to partner up to make a difference. So I guess, I'm so humbled, and I feel as just a small part of the catalyst in being able to connect really good people together and being able to continue to make a difference. And that's what I love. That's what I live for. And like you, I work hard. Like I'm involved in some really incredible businesses. One being Machaba Safaris, where we have safari camps around Zimbabwe as well as Botswana. Thanks to my good friends there that wanted to do this with me, Murray Collins, Alistair and Wendy Rankin, as well as Great Plains. We also have some safari camps here in Zimbabwe and in Botswana, thanks to Derek and Beverly Joubert that believed in me to be able to partner and do great things. So as Love for Africa has grown, which is a destination management company, we tailor make safaris to what my brother Raad wants. We put this trip together as to the guest budgets, But for me, it's more than just that, because we believe service is everything. And I'm sure you experienced it.
For sure. I mean,
came with.
People kept wanting me to video, like do a testimonial video thing to put on social media. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And they said, well, why aren't you going to do that? And I said, because what am I going to say is going to be completely counter to what you're trying to achieve, which is basically, it's been amazing and great, and I can't really explain it to you, and no picture is going to really do it justice. And the only way you're going to basically experience what this is to come and do it and find out for yourself. There's certain things, especially these days, you cannot experience virtually. You cannot experience from a distance, from the other side of a screen. Not really. Okay. What you're getting is the surface layer, but not the depth of connection. I cannot explain to you the feeling of basically being outside your tent.
Yes.
In what's the camp that we went to? Venice. Where you're literally I'm on a 75 hard program, so I wanted to stay true to it even when I was traveling, and I have to work out twice a day. So I brought my TRX bands. I have TRX bands attached to the outside of the tent, and there's elephants in the background. Okay. There's nothing that I can explain to you by words that actually captures the feeling of being out there where you're working out, and there's literally, you're keeping an eye on whether the elephants get too close, because if they get too close, you need to step back into the tent, right? And or waking up, not waking up, falling asleep to the repetitive rhythm of hippos feeding in the delta in Botswana, outside your tent. I mean, I have to go back home and find hippo eating in the delta on Spotify and play it in the background as white noise so I could fall asleep, right? There's nothing you can, or being literally swimming at the very edge of the water of the Victoria Falls, and in a little pool of water, right? And dangling your legs over the fall. Like, there's nothing that can capture that in a photo. So you're impacting people through this. You're impacting it through your legacy. But I want to ask you, because you said it, you touched base on it. It's not, you couldn't do this on your own.
Yes.
Right. So, and somebody asked me this question yesterday. He says, well, what is it about the Blessing that makes a difference? And I want to ask you this question because you learned in an environment, for anybody who knows about the internal workings of companies like Disney or companies that I worked for, when you're operating at that kind of level, what you're absorbing, whether consciously or not, is a caliber of operation, a caliber of leadership.
Yes.
And there's some good and there's some bad.
Correct.
But let's say on the good part, there's a certain level.
Yes.
So how do you look at leadership? How do you exercise leadership within your organization? Because I think you've said this in passing over the last couple of weeks, where you deal with leadership internally as also part of your legacy.
Yes. So it's a very interesting discussion that you bring up there, Raad. And as you know, in any organization, you get those good and bad leaders. But one thing that I learned at a very early age was the difference between a leader and a boss. And so if I tell you that 90% of my staff work not for a paycheck, but work because of what they love to do. So I'm always encouraged, even during the process of working with staff, that, what is it that makes you happy? And to a point, I know a lot of people say that you've got to find a job that you love so much that it doesn't feel like work. But the first thing is to respect the individual, to respect that person, to be able to not only ask your staff about about them, but about their families, to become a leader that you hope and you want to inspire them to be one day. And also, just like you, Raad, is you can find me in a group and never be able to point out and say, that's the guy that is involved in that business, and that business, because the one thing about success is remaining humble. Remaining humble. And my dad always said, Ziva Kawakava. And Raad, that's a local name and in local language called Shona, which says, always remember where you came from. So when I'm standing there and making decisions, I'm reminded of, how I started when I used to serve coffee in an office to a boss, when I used to clean the floor, when I used to mop the floor, when I used to be a waiter. So in this role that I now am in making these big decisions, company decisions, I go back to when I was serving tea. What did I hate the most? And I hated that, sometimes I'd serve tea and they wouldn't even say good morning back. They'll just say, put it on the table. So I make a conscious effort every time that when I'm served tea and coffee, I'm able to look at them and say thank you. So a lot of people that you'll ask about me, they will tell you that, Chish, this guy, he works hard, yes, but he does so many things and is so respectful to others. And that is what I've made as the brand of my leadership, and what makes it different to other leaders. And so by that, the results are we probably have maybe a 3 to 5% turnover in terms of staff turnover, meaning that we've got staff that have started with us from the beginning. And in Zimbabwe, I'm involved in impact through my businesses up to 450 staff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you from the, paraphrasing one of your staff, that, I could sit here and you could basically be blowing smoke up my what, right? Telling me what you just told me.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact from experiencing you over the last 2 weeks, because here's the thing. The reason why we do the show as a long format show, in a world that basically wants everything in 42 characters and in sound bites, is because nobody can blow smoke up your for an hour solid.
Yeah,
there's no way that somebody can keep that up. Even a politician would slip, right? So I actually was picked up, I think it was 2 days ago, maybe now.
Yeah.
I was picked up from the airport in Botswana.
Yes.
And brought across the border back to Zimbabwe.
Yes.
By one of your staff, Daphne.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Who by profession was a teacher.
Yes.
Right? And she told me, and I don't know exactly how to paraphrase it, but she told me enough about her experience and work and where she's at and what she wanted and her experience of working for the company.
Yes.
That parallels exactly what you just said from the receiving side.
Well, thank you, Raad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what you express is exactly how it's landing with people like Daphne inside the company. Yeah. And that is a huge legacy. Yeah. Because by example, just like when you were in Kiss With Me and you were activated, here's somebody that now basically has aspirations by example. Yeah. And where the boss is not writing you, but now you're more committed because of your involvement, the respect that you're past. And I totally understand what you're saying, because I think in a lot of cases with leaders, sometimes somebody can be a boss.
Yes.
But the people that are actual leaders are a handful.
Yes.
In comparison.
Correct. You're so
that you encounter in your life. And you can easily follow one path or the other. So you've now been doing this for 10 years. Yeah. Right?
For my own company for 13 years. Yeah.
13 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are you excited about as our next chapter?
Wow. I'm excited about,
I know it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And a lot of things, but what excites you the most for the next chapter?
I think what excites me most about the next chapter is the impact in just what travel can do. What I'm most excited about is being able to grow more people that can visit, and being able to create more jobs, because as in Zimbabwe and in Africa, as we were saying, when anyone travels and spends, $7,500 for a trip, a permanent job is created, right?
You know how many times you said that to us in the course of being with you for the last almost 10 days? You said it to us a lot.
A lot.
And not only did you say it to us, but some of the guys, right? Mm-hmm. David and Trust and some of the guys that were basically giving us rides in the bush, they repeated the same thing in terms of thank you, you understand what you have done. But for those who don't understand, tell people, because we had how many people was on this trip?
We had 10.
10 people.
10 of you, yeah.
Okay. What did you say to us as part of?
Well, as part of coming on this trip, and first and foremost is I obviously was grateful that you could book your trip through Life Africa. But most important of everything was the impact that 10 of you had made by traveling. Because of what you spent, you each created a permanent job in tourism. And what that meant for Zimbabwe is that, for example, in Africa, at least one permanent job supports up to 9 people. So just imagine this, Raad. You guys spent probably $7,500 for a 10-day trip. And in that 10-day trip, the impact that was made was 90 people. 90 people can now take food home. And why is that important? It's important that I share that because in the world that we're going in today, many jobs are going to be replaced. I shared a story of, when I remember when I first went to America, you'd walk into Walmart, there would be like 30 staff behind every till. And now you don't see that. Everything is self-checkout. So what is done, those jobs have been lost, right? And it's now self-checkout. But that is happening everywhere around the world. And in the future, that is going to continue happening. So what jobs will we be able to create? We will be able to create those jobs of positions that cannot be replaced by a computer. This discussion that we're having is heart to heart. It can never be two robots sharing what we are sharing. Me taking you on safari and taking you on a walk to track lions and elephants, showing you spoor and footmarks. Yes, we may be able to get a robot that will be able to explain what everything is, but the human factor and that love and that experience will never, ever be able to replace.
Let me tell you something. I think to have a robot or AI or a self-driving car literally be a Jeep that's taking you on that ride in the bush or that night ride, right? And bumping in the sand and getting stuck in the sand, possibly because of the soft Kalahari sand, right? That's not going to happen.
Yes.
That's just not going to happen. And by the way, when you're bumping around in the Jeep, they call that African massage or safari massage because you're getting massaged all the time while you're in there, right? Mm-hmm. But they also have a thing where they call it, wait, I need to go get my walking stick.
Yeah.
And the walking stick is actually the rifle.
Yes.
Because there was a time when we tracked lions actually on foot from the Jeep. Yeah. And we had to do it in single file. Yes. And you had to have a person that was armed in the front and a person that was armed in the back.
Yes.
And we were aware of where the lions were and they were aware of us, at which point we basically didn't crowd them and then we got back in the Jeep. But there are certain things you are not going to be able to replace with that. And if you are, it's going to be such a shallow experience that is missing the depth. And I think the more we have in the world that goes down that path of automation, AI, whatever, the more these experiences become really genuinely important for people to have access to.
Yeah.
So, and then the fact that it has a positive impact, like you're saying, 10 of us basically impacted 90 people.
90 people. Fact.
Positively fact, right? Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. So and you mentioned about those positive impacts. So I will also say that we are working on something that if you follow again with the Raad Life, especially the magazine, there will be a section that says Raad recommends, and in there we're working on some opportunities to provide either promotional codes or whatever to encourage people to actually do this. And we're working on putting together a couple of potential excursions through the Raad Life as well for next year. So I want to ask you this because it's a little self-promoting.
Yes.
Right? What does living the Raad Life mean to you?
Wow. Living the Raad Life means a lot, especially for this age group that I'm part of.
Well, you're a Gen Xer.
I'm a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
And, first of all, let me speak about the individual. I think, Raad, before you even came on this trip, before I'd even met you personally, me and you had a few WhatsApp calls and WhatsApp video calls, and I realized that, I needed to meet this guy. And I remember, saying to you yesterday, the fact that everyone has gone back, and here's Raad. He says, okay, Blessing, I'm going to just spend another 5 days with you. Really meant a lot. And our friendship and everything has grown. People wouldn't believe that we've only literally been together probably the last 10 days.
In person, yeah.
In person.
Yeah, and briefly on WhatsApp.
And briefly on WhatsApp.
The last couple of months.
Yeah. But I feel I have a friend in you, and also I wanted to not only gift you, but to gift all the Raad Life, group and the magazine.
The Free Radicals.
The Free Radicals. And I want to say this to all the readers and all the people listening to the podcast, that we're going to come up with a code in honor of my brother Raad. and extend a 9% discount on the next safari that they book with this code, Raad, just to say thanks to you,
Thank you.
and all your followers
Very
and all your listeners. And, you know, if I can do that, because if I can impact someone to come and experience what you've experienced and to be able to go and talk about it, the world is only going to become a better place.
Yeah, and we'll do some reflections from the road. I mean, we took so many pictures. The people that were in the group took pictures.
Yeah.
Blessing and I actually figured out that I did not want to have my face buried in a phone while I'm here, that the experience needs to be more real. And so I didn't want to basically be trying to capture every moment by phone. I wanted to be kind of off as much as possible. Yeah. So we arranged for a couple of photographers to be with us, one at the camp and one actually at Victoria Falls. Yeah. And so we have a lot of photos that we'll start to basically put in a couple of articles. But with that even said, capturing not just the setting, not just the experience of being on safari, but the real visceral effect that you have by going through this experience, the self-reflection, the finding yourself in a vastness of the world versus in the microcosm of where you live. You know, the fact that somebody told me today that somebody sent them a map of the world, and then they basically had a dot in a small spot where they are, and it said, you are here, okay, and this is where you are basically wasting too much time worrying about the things that are too small in the span of all of this, right? So sometimes we forget that the vastness of our lives, the being able to breathe so widely, okay, is there for us to do, but we have to step out of that comfort zone. You stepped out of your comfort zone from a comfortable company, right? And went ventured. Comfort is great and has its place, but it's also an anathema to basically what living large, living to your potential, opening yourself up to what you could be, your being basically, right, is boundless. And sometimes you have to step outside the comfort zone. So if we can help encourage people to do that by going on quote unquote safari, by venturing out and exploring, continuing to be curious, continuing to be, open to the uncertainties of life with an excitement versus a worry and a concern, then that's something we would love to bring to people. So look out for that promotional code, look out for some of the articles that we'll share. And I really, really want to thank you for taking the time. You're a busy guy, and I loved having coffee with you this morning. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, and happening. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to have you come next year. Please come out, be led by this guy in January and May. It'll be a great trip, and I look forward to meeting you. And always, always, always follow us. See where we're going to go next. There's going to be another interesting thing that happens in September. Once I stepped out of my comfort zone, again reminded myself that this is a gear that is in my truth of being. Like you can thrive and you can survive and you can make a life for yourself anywhere, right? But there is a time sometimes to remind yourself that stepping outside your comfort zone has its own reward. It has the uncomfort, but it also has its own reward. And you meet people like my friend here, my brother Blessing, who basically is an inspiration to me, to people that work for him, and he's making an impact and a legacy, not only in Zimbabwe, but beyond. And I can't wait to see what you do next, man. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really. And for all the amazing, magical 10 days. And above and beyond. I mean, this man knows that I was on a program for 75 Hard, knows that I cannot drink alcohol while I'm on this program. So what does he do? He surprises me on safari when we stop, where they have a table set up. It's literally like a movie set. Friggin' table set up with all the food for lunch and everything. And there's an old colonial-looking thing that you would imagine in a British movie or something, where the bar is set up with crystal glasses, tumblers, right? And there's a bottle of non-alcoholic gin. Because you're supposed to have gin and tonics when you're on safari, but I couldn't drink. So he actually found a hack for me to where I could have gin and tonics and still not break my commitment and discipline of not having alcohol on this program. That will be something else that you could find on the Raad Recommends. And I'm just leaving it at that. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. All the best. All the best for you too. Thank you. See you soon. See you soon. Thank you very much.